It was a comfortable silence. The wind was a slight breeze, causing our hair to move around us. It took me a couple of minutes to talk. I was afraid to break the peacefulness that we actually had right now. I knew it was a stupid question, but I asked anyways. "Are you okay?" I muttered, looking at his face. As redundant as I sound, I couldn't get over how handsome Harrison was. Even when he was angry or sad, he was still as handsome as ever, with his defined jaw, strong cheekbones, and blue eyes framed by dark eyelashes that any girl would envy. His lips were set in a thin line. "I'll be okay," he mumbled. "I heard about your dad being locked up," I said. He nodded. "Do you want to talk about it?" I stuffed my hands in my pocket, looking at his profile. He hung his head down before picking it up to stare at nothing in particular. I came home after a meeting with the representatives to grab some stuff Betty wanted. My dad was drunk as usual, slurring out and crying about how much he missed my mum. I decided to ignore it. I didn't know Betty was downstairs with him. She hasn't even been home since the last time he hit her. Remember when I told you about that story? He looked at me when I nodded. She was telling him that my mum was in a better place, and according to Betty, he nodded and said that Betty was right. He told her he was hungry, so Betty cooked him food. All of a sudden, I heard a huge crash and Betty screaming. I ran out as fast as I could. I saw my sister on the ground with the pan of hot food on her. She looked like a wreck. She was crying. Her hair was all over the place. She had a bruise on her cheek. For a werewolf to have a bruise, they must have been hit hard. Harrison's voice quavered when he talked about how he discovered Betty. I scooted closer, putting a hand on his shoulder for comfort. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to," I whispered. In all honesty, I was scared for him to go on. It felt like my ears were deceiving me. I wanted to cry for my mate. I felt the emotions he was feeling. I felt sick listening to what Betty had to go through. "It's okay," Harrison said. So anyways, I saw my dad with the pan in his hand. It was raised, like he was about to hit her again. I jumped in front of Betty, pushing my dad back. He stumbled, looking at me angrily. If he wasn't locked up from his werewolf abilities, he would have shifted. He started yelling at me for protecting my sister, the girl that was a stupid idiot in his eyes. Imagine what Betty must have felt hearing that from her own dad. I asked him why he was doing this to his own daughter. He only laughed and said that Betty made food our mum always made. Well, of course Betty did. She learned how to cook from my mum. When I told him he was an asshole, I told him that was the last time he was ever going to see us. I started picking Betty off the floor, comforting her. The next thing I know, he took the kitchen knife and threatened us. I pushed Betty behind me, telling my dad to calm down. He was angry, so he slashed my arm pretty deep. Harrison sighed, picking up his shirt sleeve to point out a light scar on his muscled bicep. Now that he pointed it out, I was well aware of it. I gasped lowly, picking up a shaking hand to trace it with my index finger. Looks like we had a lot in common. Both of our dads harmed us. Fate had a funny way of choosing mates for people. Soon after, an expert and Brian showed up in the kitchen. Betty later told me she linked Brian for help. The expert took down my dad, and because they had powers that we don't, paralyzed him. So that's how my dad ended up being locked up. We visited him today because the experts called us in for a meeting. Our dad was actually sober. What also was hard to believe was the repetitive apologies coming from him. Harrison sighed, breathing hard. He still didn't look at me. Before I could think twice, I wrapped my arms around his neck and hugged him. He was shocked, but he wrapped his arms around my waist. "You and Betty didn't deserve that," I said genuinely, still holding on to him. "I'm sorry it happened." "Thanks," he said when we let go. "So what's going to happen to him?" "He's going to be locked up for life." Werewolves are into family because they have this mentality that fate has given you a beautiful gift if you had a family. If you physically harm your loved ones with no valid reason, you committed a crime. How do you feel about your dad being locked up? He deserves it, but I also think it's good for him. He'll get better. How often do you visit him? Every month we have a meeting with him. It's harder for Betty. He did say a lot of nasty things to her. Betty is a fantastic daughter. Your father was wrong, I defended, sticking my hands into my coat pocket. Thanks, Jessie, Harrison smiled, looking at me. You're the only one I've actually talked to about this. You're the one who seems to actually care about what I feel. His statement surprised me. I wanted to ask him why he doesn't talk to Sarah about this, or why Sarah doesn't care. But then I remembered that she doesn't know about our supernatural being, so instead, I smile back at him and lay my head against his shoulder. I don't know what caused my actions, especially since I wasn't on speaking terms with him just an hour ago. It just felt like the right thing to do, and I wanted to comfort him. In fact, I was tired of fighting with him and bickering. Why couldn't we just be civil? Harrison, can we be civil? Can we be friends? I'm so tired of fighting. I sighed, waving my white flag. Being friends was better than nothing. Harrison's blue eyes widened before a full-blown smile stretched across his face. I'm tired of fighting too, Jesse. Friends, he said, sticking out his hand to shake. Friends, I smiled, feeling a huge weight lift off my shoulders. There was one thing I've always wanted to talk to about Harrison for a long time now. I've been itching to ask him even before I came to Lancetown. It was a question that haunted the both of us, I'm sure. What about Scott? I asked cautiously. I saw him stiffen beside me. Have you visited him? When I moved to live with the Wood family, I had nightmares every night. I was suffering post-traumatic stress from the events that happened that night. I remember screaming in the middle of the night, my relatives barging in with wide eyes. The wolfsbane would be fresh in my nose. The sight of my mother and Daisy flashed beneath my closed lids, their blood and bruises visible on their dirty skin. My father wanted to kill me, the cold blade pressing into my skin. My dad about to plunge a knife into my mother's heart. My dad dying. Scott wanted to kill my mate. It was a lot to handle, being in a situation like that for the first time. I genuinely wanted to know how Scott was. Last thing I heard about him was that he was in a facility, getting better. Apparently, he wasn't in his state of mind when he attacked us. He's going to be in the facility for another year before they release him, Harrison said, scratching the back of his neck. Do you know why he went crazy? He was injected with a type of herbal from an ancient book when he was depressed. This lets you turn off your human feelings, but it is also very dangerous. It causes your animal side to dominate and your negative emotions to enhance. Why were his parents killed? I asked him, looking at him with a torn expression. Healers don't just kill werewolves without valid reasons. That's why I didn't want to kill healers, Jesse. They didn't do anything wrong. Scott's parents harmed many people to get a cure for Scott's dad. He was suffering from a huge sickness that was going to kill him soon. Due to the many fatalities, they were subject to die. I just nodded, and I felt bad for Scott. He was depressed, and he was acting on a drug. He wasn't in his right state of mind, and his parents were fighting for each other. Of course he would think it was the right thing to do to try and heal each other. He loved his parents, and he had to lose them. He became depressed. Have you visited him? I asked Harrison, laying my head on his shoulder again. After a couple of seconds, Harrison sighed and said, No, I'm scared. There was a pang in my chest because of how broken he sounded. He's my best friend, and I hate seeing him so weak. He tried to kill me, and I know it wasn't on purpose. I knew he was angry because I didn't do anything about his parents' death. I should have done something, at least tell him what his parents did. He doesn't know about his parents killing humans. What kid wants to hear that their amazing and superhero parents killed about 50 people? I stiffened when I heard this information. So Scott didn't know the truth? That made more sense. I always wanted to visit him, but I just can't bring myself to see him, Harrison said. I studied him, and I knew that if my best friend was sick, I'd be scared to visit too. So I smiled and nudged his arm with my elbow. Come on, we're going to visit him tomorrow. You need to see him. I know it's a huge weight on his shoulders to know that he did this to his best friend. You need to find closure. Jesse, no, we're going, Harrison, but no buts. I will drag you if I have to. I don't. It's not a good idea, but it's for the best. What about you? You're not fine with this, are you? Yes, I'm okay with it, I lied. Please, Jesse, I don't. You have to go sometime. Might as well go now. After contemplating, Harrison sighed. Fine. Although I was scared to see Scott myself, I had to find my closure with him as well. The West Mental Hospital was situated near a lake in a private property. The leaves were beginning to yellow. This area was clean and polished, considering it was an institute for the mentally disturbed. The building was perfectly painted, a warm beige colour with its name written in black across the front entrance. It was fairly big, standing at 3 stories high. Brown curtains covered glass windows. Harrison had told me this was one of the 2 mental hospitals in Michigan. We were lucky it was only a 45-minute drive from Lancetown. Harrison also informed me that these institutes were in private places and all werewolf doctors here did have a degree. Harrison and I stared at the building for a few minutes longer before I muttered, "Are you ready?" "Nope." I was never ready. "You dragged me here," Harrison said, turning back to face my Pegasus. "Why don't we go back home? Scott's probably sleeping. I don't want to disturb him." "No, we're doing this, and if we have to stay here for a whole night for you to finally go inside, then we will." Harrison groaned, stuffing his hands in his leather jacket. "Why are you so stubborn?" "I've always been stubborn," I smirked, pulling my knit beanie over my head. "I'm here, Harrison. I'll help you." While Harrison stared at the building again with fear, I slicked my hand into his warm one. I didn't miss the tingles that ignited in every cell of my body. "Come on, you could do this," I smiled up at him. We started walking towards the entrance, and I was pretty sure Harrison's hand was starting to sweat. I couldn't blame him. I was scared and nervous to see the person who tried to kill us. The double door slid open and the lady at the front desk smiled warmly at us. Her black hair was pulled up into a bun and her brown eyes calculated us. "Hello," she called out. "Hi," I said when Harrison didn't say anything. "We're looking for Scott Green, Mr. Burr." "Green has a lot of friends," the woman said with enthusiasm while digging in a drawer. She pulled out a clipboard and a pen. "Please just sign in here, and before you leave, you must sign out." I nodded, signing my name in and practically forcing Harrison to sign his name. After we signed in, the lady instructed us to go to the 2nd floor, turn right, and find room number 206. I muttered a thank you and dragged Harrison along with me. "I don't think I could do this," Harrison said, pacing inside the elevator while tugging at his black hair. "Harrison, calm down," I said, grabbing his hand and walking onto the 2nd floor. The white linoleum floors were shiny under the fluorescent light. There was the smell of werewolf everywhere mixed in with a slight trace of vanilla. The doors were a dark mahogany, numbers painted on the wood. He was breathing hard and I had to stop to look at him. "Look, I'm nervous too," I said slowly. It was true. My heart was pounding against my ribcage and the memories of him flashed through my head. I forced the vile images out of my head. Scott was better now. I just knew it. "So, why are you doing this?" Harrison Whisper yelled. "Let's just go. Give your best friend a chance," I said comfortingly. He still looked unconvinced, so I tugged his hand in front of Scott's door. I could hear the television on a football game. My heart was pounding and I tightened my hold on Harrison's hand. Harrison stood close behind me and I could feel his nervousness. I jumped slightly when I heard a familiar male cheer for his team, a voice I haven't heard in months. "We could do this," I said, glancing over my shoulder to look at Harrison. He looked down before nodding slowly. I twisted the knob, opening the door slowly and tugging Harrison behind me. Scott was in his bed, which was pushed to one side of the room. A lamp was on a nightstand right next to bed. Under the window was a desk with a few notebooks and pencils. A dresser and a closet was side by side. To the immediate right of us was the door leading to the bathroom. We walked in a little bit for Scott to see us. When his brown eyes met ours, it widened into saucers. His mouth opened to say something, but nothing came out. His posture stiffened, and there, a million apologies written in his brown orbs. "Hey, Scott," I said, smiling when nobody said anything. I gave him a small wave. "I'm dreaming," he said, running his hand in his brown hair before pinching himself. "No, you're not," I laughed. After a couple of minutes of staring at us, Scott hung his head and started crying. His shoulders moved up and down, and he tried to muffle his sobs down. He looked up at us with tear-filled eyes. "You guys don't realize how much I'm so sorry," he said. "I'm so immensely, truly sorry for what I did. There are no excuses for my bad behavior. It was wrong and I don't expect you guys to forgive me, but I'm sorry." I smiled widely at him, my own tears rolling down my cheeks. I looked up to see Harrison with a serious expression, staring at Scott. He still hasn't said anything. "Gosh, I'm such a pussy," Scott said, rubbing furiously at his tears. I laughed lightly at him. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that to you, Jesse. I really shouldn't. I'm not going to try to make up excuses, because that would just make me feel so much worse. Harrison, I'm so sorry too. I'm sorry I turned my back on the one person who has been there for me this whole time. I'm sorry I had such negative thoughts on my best friend. I just lost more when I did what I did." "No, I'm sorry," Harrison said for the first time, before giving him a small smile. "I should have done more to help you. I'm also sorry that it took me so long to come visit you. I didn't expect you to come." "I thought you guys hated me," Scott said, standing up from his bed. "We don't hate you," I said, before flinging my arms around Scott. I suddenly felt bad for him with everything that Harrison told me yesterday. "We just want to help," Scott cried into my hair a little longer before mumbling apologies repeatedly. I patted his back, telling him it was okay. When we parted, I smiled widely when Harrison and Scott did the man hug thing, patting each other's back hard. "Man, I've missed you," Scott said when he stood in front of us. "Hey," Harrison said, slapping Scott on the back. "I've got to ask you a serious question though. What is it?" Scott asked. "Anything. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities." "Do you know anything about the hunters that are trying to attack us?" Harrison said, looking seriously at Scott. Scott's eyes showed it all. Confusion. "Don't lie to us, Scott. If you do, you will be sentenced to death for planning a second attack on werewolves." "Harrison," I gasped, looking at him sternly. "No, it's okay, Jesse," Scott smiled, before turning to look at Harrison. "I really don't know what's going on. The only person I'd ever talked to about attacking people was Jesse's dad. There's an attack." "Okay, don't worry about that," I told him, pushing him towards his bed. "Are you lying?" Harrison said, ignoring my glares. He crossed his arms over his chest. "Harry, I know it's hard to trust me with everything that happened. It's understandable. I'm telling the truth when I say I don't know what is going on. I swear to God." After a few more questioning from an unconvinced Harrison, I interrupted. "So, how are you?" I asked. Harrison took a seat on a chair near the bed while I sat on Scott's bed. Harrison leaned forward, concerned over his friend's health. "Good," Scott said enthusiastically. "They've put me on some medications to drain out those herbs and I feel like a new man. Daisy and I are on the right track and I'm happy. I'm happy that you guys are here too." "That's good," Harrison said. "The only thing I don't like is the assignments they let us do. It's cheesy. Painting and colouring. I saw your smiley face out in the hole." "Good effort," Harrison laughed. "You've always been jealous of my artistic skills, White." I smiled when I saw the two best friends joking around. Harrison slapped Scott across the head and Scott put Harrison in a headlock. It was refreshing to see that they were going to be all right. Harrison wasn't going to completely trust him, and I wasn't going to completely trust him either. By being here, we were trying to find closure on what had happened that night, and we were accomplishing that task. After a few more minutes of small talk, visiting hours for the afternoon period was over. Harrison and I piled into my Pegasus, looking at the building with small smiles on our faces. "I still don't trust him," Harrison sighed. "I don't either," I said. "But it's a start. It was nice seeing you joke around with him." "Yeah, it was just like old times before he started getting depressed." "He's getting better." I could see it. "So, how did you feel going in there?" Harrison asked, slouching in his seat. "I was scared, actually. I think I was as scared as you." "I wasn't scared," Harrison defended, puffing out his chest slightly. "I had to practically drag you in the room." "If it were for other reasons, I wouldn't mind going in a room with you," Harrison joked, throwing a wink my way. Although I laughed at that, I punched his chest. "This friendship thing is getting to your head, Dot." "Oh, so the old nickname comes back," Harrison hollered, rolling down his window and sticking his head out. "It must be a miracle," he yelled to the sky. "She is no longer the rampaging woman on her menopause." I hit him again and he laughed. "I'm kidding, Jess," he said, smiling at me. I couldn't help the smile that graced my face too. It was nice talking and laughing with Harrison again. It probably wasn't going to always be easy like this, but again, it was a start. We just stared at each other, smiling, before Harrison took me in his muscled arms. "Thanks, Jez," he whispered. "I mean it." "Lossa Tark," I muttered repeatedly, poising my hands over Jake's palm. Inhaling deeply, I concentrated on the task at hand. I opened my eyes to look at Jake's hand, groaning in disappointment. Why can't I get this right? I dropped my hands onto my thighs with a loud slap, throwing my head back in frustration. "Don't beat yourself up, Jesse," Jake encouraged. Just try again. You're practically bleeding to death because of me, I muttered pointedly, sighing when I saw Jake's frightened face. We were in the kitchen, practicing my healing abilities. 14 months of training, and I still haven't perfected my powers. Every time I tried, I would fail miserably, while Jake's wound would get worse with every attempt. It would usually go like this. Jake would randomly train me. He'd take a knife and cut a small slash on his palm. Before it would heal due to his werewolf abilities, I'd start with what I was taught. I would recite the words, Los Atark, repeatedly with my eyes closed, trying to get in touch with nature. I don't even know what language those 2 words were from, but I do know in English it meant healing. When I'd open my eyes, Jake's wound would be bigger, bleed more, or get deeper. Obviously, that was far from being healed. That meant only one thing. I failed, and I kept failing. Just try again, Jake urged again, looking at his bloody hand. You'll get it eventually. Are you sure? You just don't want to stop now? I asked, knitting my eyebrows in concern. He literally looked like he was in pain. Every time I'd ask him how it felt, he'd lie and say it didn't feel like anything. However, I knew it was either stinging, burning, or aching. I'm fine. Let's just continue, Jake reassured, holding his bloody hand out to me. He wiped off blood with the 3rd napkin he used today. Okay, I said after a couple of seconds. I closed my eyes, poising my hand over his palm. Inhaling, I recited, Los Atark. Los Atark. Los Atark. Los Atark. Los Atark. I opened my eyes and groaned once more. The wound was leaking out blood. Los Atark, I concentrated. Los Atark, Los Atark, Los Atark. I felt like crying when once again it didn't work. Banging my head onto the table, I whined. I'm such a useless healer. You are not, Jake scolded, wiping blood off his hand. Never say a healer is useless, even if you are talking about yourself. How come I always fail? You got it in a few weeks, so how come it's taking me so long? I complained, getting mad at myself for constantly failing. You just need to find yourself, Jake said. Maybe it isn't your time yet. You need to get in touch with nature. You need to put down the wall that's between the both of you. What the hell? How do you do that? I don't know, Jake screamed back, frightened by my anger. He looked funny with his brown eyes widening and his shoulders going up. I never had to go through that. I'm sorry. I feel so stupid. You keep teaching me, and I never learn from my mistakes. I'm sorry, Jake, I said, tugging at my long brown hair. Come on, Jake sighed, putting his hand in front of me. Let's try this one more time. Fine, I huffed, closing my eyes. I concentrated hard, calling out to nature. Los Atark, Los Atark, Los Atark, still bleeding. Los Atark, Los Atark, Los Atark, Los Atar. What the hell are you doing to Jake? A male voice shouted, breaking my concentration. I opened my eyes and groaned. Turning around to glare at the ginger, I crossed my arms over my chest. Why are you killing him? Perry yelled at me, looking at Jake's hand with wide eyes. Jake just smirked, amused by the situation. And what the saying are you saying? Is it some type of witchcraft? I've always known you were evil. Gee, thanks, Perry, I replied sarcastically. I was practicing my healer abilities, by the way. Perry's eyebrows knitted together, scrutinizing Jake's bloody hand and the 3 bloody napkins next to him. His eyebrows shot up before he looked at me. You're doing a great job, Jesse, he lied. Perry was always a bad liar. He threw a thumb up in my direction before heading out the door. Okay, let's continue, Jake encouraged, sticking his hand in front of me. I think we should take a break. I'm not feeling it anymore. Jesse, you'll get it someday. I'm fine. If you want to practice some more, I'm more than willing to help you out. Jake, I'm not in the mood anymore, I said in disappointment, avoiding his penetrating gaze. I don't want that wound to worsen, especially with my added negativity. Don't give up. I'm not giving up. I'm just taking a break. I'm sure I'd get it sooner or later, I said, trying to convince him. It sounded like I was trying to convince myself as well. Okay, well, I'm just going to clean this up and cook something. Do you want anything? I shook my head, getting up and walking up the stairs. I decided to ask Harrison about what the hunters and rogues want as part of our investigation. After convincing Jake that I would be fine talking to Harrison by myself, he gave in and agreed to the idea. I was confident that Harrison would share the information with me because we were on speaking terms. He always used to tell me things that dealt with werewolf business. Therefore, I decided to give it a shot and ask him. "Harrison," I called when I knocked on his bedroom door. "It's Jesse!" There was no response. I was sure he was home. His car was parked in the garage, and he would have announced his departure, telling us to call him if anything went wrong. "Harrison," I called again, knocking on the door continually. When there was no response, I opened his bedroom door slowly. His scent crashed into me. Unintentionally, I let out a low moan. It was tidy, and it was empty. A king-sized bed with white bedsheets was pushed up again, one beige wall. A small leather couch and a single beanbag was situated in front of a hanging flat-screen television. The window across the room was draped with white curtains. Underneath the window was a desk with several papers scattered along the surface and a laptop in the middle. To the left were 2 doors that led to his bathroom and his closet. Before I could close the door and leave, something on his nightstand caught my eye. I walked in, shutting the door behind me and walking over to the picture frame. I scrutinized it with my eyebrows drawn together in confusion. In the middle of the black, intricate border was a picture of Harrison and me. My arms were around his neck, hugging him from behind. My smile was wide as he kissed me on the cheek. We were messing around, and Betty decided to take a picture of us with her DSLR camera. I was beyond confused. Why did he have our photo on his nightstand? Doesn't Sarah come in here? Has she seen this photo? What the hell was that foul smell? I scrunched up my nose when I caught a slight trace of something tainted. If I were a regular werewolf, I wouldn't have caught the scent. Being a healer, everything was heightened. Why did it smell so familiar? I decided to take a big inhale of the air around me. Despite Harrison's delicious scent, that slight trace was disturbing. My wolf was prancing around me. Before I knew it, my feet were moving around the room while I tried to find out where it was coming from. I knew it was wrong snooping around Harrison's stuff, but the scent was bugging me. I bent down near Harrison's bed where the scent was much stronger. I resisted the urge to gag. Looking under his bed, I saw something wrapped in a bunch of Harrison's clothes. I pulled out the pile of clothes and put it in front of me. When Harrison's clothes were in a neat pile next to me, a huge black box was facing me. The smell was stronger now, causing my eyes to water at its stench. I opened the box slowly. Then I threw it across the room, staring at it with horror-stricken eyes. My hand was trembling as I brought it up to cover my open mouth. Why did Harrison have a rifle, a case of 100 wolfsbane-laced bullets, and a wolfsbane-laced spear? Before I could hide any evidence that I was there and run out as quickly as possible, the door opened. Harrison stood before me, observing the weapons in the corner. "Jesse?" Harrison asks cautiously, looking at me with intense eyes. "What are you doing in my room?" "What are you doing in my room?" Harrison asked curiously. "Jesse, it's not what it looks like," Harrison said slowly as I glared at him. Hot tears were streaming down my flushed face. I was angry. Scratch that. I was furious. What the hell was he doing with those vile weapons? There were many questions popping up in my head, but I couldn't bring myself to speak it out loud. Maybe I was assuming things. I don't know, but actually possessing those weapons instead of throwing it out did not make sense for a werewolf. "Enlighten me, Harrison," I said angrily. I motioned my hand towards the weapons in the corner. "Why the hell do you have those?" "Calm down," Harrison said cautiously, putting his hands up and walking towards me. "Don't touch me." I stepped back. Harrison flinched, returning his arms to his side. "Why do you have it?" I asked once again. "I have it because I found it during the attack," Harrison sighed. "I didn't want anyone to find out about it." "Why not?" I snapped. "Because they were going to freak out like what you're doing right now, and they wouldn't hesitate to throw it out," Harrison answered. "Why do you have it?" "I've been trying to find a way to avoid being affected by these things when the hunters and rogues attack. I've been searching in every ancient book and talking to every elder, but I haven't found anything," Harrison said tiredly. I felt my anger diminish as I heard his reason for possessing the rifle, bullets, and a spear. Turns out, it wasn't only Jake and I doing our separate investigations. I sat down next to Harrison, contemplating whether I should tell him what Jake and I had found out. I chose not to. Jake wouldn't be too happy with me if I shared out information with Harrison out of all people. I'm sorry, I said after a couple of seconds. I shouldn't have assumed the worst. It's normal. Everyone does, right? Harrison smiled tightly. Anyways, what are you doing in my room? I laughed nervously. Well, I came here to ask you a question, but something caught my eye and I went to look at it. I'm nosy, I know. I've always been. That's when I caught a whiff of the wolfsbane. You know, healers have enhanced senses. I was being nosy again. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Harrison cut off my babbling. What caught your eye? He asked, his blue eyes burning with curiosity. I felt the blood rush to my cheeks. Well, I found that. I stumbled to get the words out, pointing at the picture frame. I might be imagining things, but I swore Harrison's cheek had the slightest tint of pink. He scratched the back of his neck. Oh, Harrison said after a while. Yeah, I said awkwardly when he didn't explain further. I really wanted to know why he still had it. I mean, he did have a girlfriend. Wasn't he scared that Sarah was going to find it? Sure, I had a picture of us, but he had a girlfriend now. So, what did you want to ask me? He digressed. Okay, so I was wondering. I clapped my hands together and got down to business. What do the hunters and rogues want? What's that important? Harrison's face fell and he clenched his jaw. His posture stiffened. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. Why not? I shot up to my feet, placing my hands on my hips. Only Brian and I know. It's classified information. It's better if nobody else knew, Harrison explained. Please just leave it at that. I want to help, I yelled. I feel so useless sitting here. You're not useless, Harrison said calmly. You didn't change, did you? You're still nosy, demanding, angry, stubborn, and a little psycho, he joked, smirking. I'm serious. I slapped his chest lightly. You're still violent? Harrison ignored my serious expression, listing down more of my negative features. You're pushy. You're controlling. You're... Okay, shut up, I said flatly. Why are you so serious all the damn time? You're like an old librarian who owns 20 cats. I haven't seen you really enjoy life. You know what you need. Harrison got up from his bed, looking at me with mischievous eyes. What? I asked slowly, stepping back when he walked closer to me. He smirked evilly before quickly grabbing my hips in his hands and tickling me. You need to laugh, Harrison yelled in between my laughter. Stop. I managed to gasp out in between laughter. My embarrassing hiccups followed each giggle. I haven't laughed like this in a long time. It felt good. I missed that laugh, Harrison chuckled as I struggled to escape his hands. W. Harrison, I screamed when he squeezed my side. That's right, Harrison joked. Scream my name. You're such a perv, I choked out, slapping his chest. When he squeezed my side once more, my leg jerked, causing an accidental kick to his nuts. His hands immediately left my side, clutching his crotch. He groaned in pain, falling to the ground. I watched shortly with wide eyes before bursting into a fit of giggles. Oh my gosh, I gasped between my laughter and hiccups. I clutched my tummy, literally crying in amusement. That's what you get, Dot. You're going to pay for that, Harrison grunted, slowly getting up. I watched with horror before running away. I squealed, locking the bathroom door before he could push it open. I have the key, you know, Harrison said through the door. This is war. You're so immature, I yelled back. His shower head was big and the removable type. An idea popped into my head before I laughed mischievously. I stepped into the tub, grabbing the shower head in my hands and getting ready for my remarkable attack. I'm coming in, Harrison yelled. I heard the key jingling and the doorknob turning. When the door opened, I let out an Indian cry before turning the water on and spraying him. His face was priceless. His blue eyes widened and his mouth flew open in surprise. He put his arms in front of him. I'm the immature one. You're making my whole bathroom wet, he cried. I turned the water off while giggling. He stood there with his arms crossed over his chest. He was dripping wet, his thin t-shirt clinging to his muscles. His black hair was flat against his head, and tiny drops of water were dripping off his chin. I would have drooled at the sight of him, but he was ready to attack. After staring at each other for a couple of minutes, Harrison said, You're going to regret that. I dropped the showerhead in shock when he used his inhuman speed and climbed in the huge bathtub with me. Before I could grab it, he took it in his hands and turned it on. I squealed as the cold water pierced my skin. Harrison's laughter was cut short when I grabbed his delicious-smelling shampoo and squirted it at him. He let go of the showerhead when the shampoo was about to drip into his eyes. "That's expensive shampoo," Harrison complained. I stuck my tongue out at him, wringing my green sweater. "You asked for it," I yelled childishly. Harrison sprayed me with the showerhead once more, and I gave him a menacing glare. "You don't play fair," he whined. I laughed when he almost slipped. Before I could pick up his shampoo bottle again, he pinned me against the wall and grabbed the bottle in his hand. He squirted it on my skin. It was starting to get sticky with every second my skin was drying. He started tickling me again, and I hiccuped. "Okay, stop," I gasped. "Give up." "Truce." Harrison's hand stopped on my hips, but he made no move to remove it. His smirk grew into my favourite, genuine smile as his blue eyes pierced into mine. I tried not to blush when I realised our bodies were flushed against each other. "Although you wasted perfectly good and expensive shampoo, we should call a truce," Harrison joked. "You smell like me." "I stink," I joked too, wrinkling my nose. Harrison scoffed, but he didn't say anything. He just picked up a hand and softly pushed a wet strand of hair behind my ear. I almost closed my eyes from pleasure, but I didn't want to miss the way his blue irises were piercing into mine. In that moment, I forgot all my problems and I felt human. Harrison was the only person who could make me feel like a normal human. Although he was my mate, my wolf would leave me alone when we were in the presence of Harrison. She would be too busy bonding with Harrison's wolf. Even if it were just a couple of minutes, I basked in humanity. Sarah flashed in my head. No girl deserved to be cheated on, and I wasn't about to wreck Harrison and Sarah's relationship. I picked up my hand and trailed it down the side of his face. I didn't miss the way his head tilted closer to my hand, the way he gulped, and the way he looked at me with pain, passion, longing, and a ton of other emotions flashing in his blue eyes. Placing my hand flat on his cheek, I smiled at him. "I think I should go," I said, swallowing the tears. Stepping out of the tub, I exited his bedroom with my heart aching. I was so bored. Perry, Daisy, and I groaned simultaneously, causing Daisy to giggle. Jake was out with Andrew doing fun things. I knew they went paintball, went karting, and skiing. When I asked if I could go, Andrew looked guilty. He was trying to find excuses as to why I couldn't tag along. Jake bluntly told me this was a man day, and they didn't want any females to interrupt them. Apparently, they thought females were always burdens to what men considered fun. I simply stuck my tongue out at them and said they were jerks. Amanda did the same, glaring at Andrew. Nelson, Jennifer, Betty, and Brian went on a double date run. They asked if we wanted to go, but we turned their offer down nicely. We didn't want to feel left out. It also made us envy their perfect relationship. After all, my mate had a human girlfriend. Daisy's mate was in a mental institute. Perry didn't find his mate yet. We were completely lucky when it came to the romance department. Note the sarcasm. Harrison was doing some alpha duties upstairs, so that left the three of us moaning about how bored we were. We seriously had no life. "How's Scott?" Perry asked after thinking about a topic to discuss. "Fine," Daisy answered, throwing her platinum blonde hair out of her face. Her sapphire eyes showed concern over her mate. "He's doing so much better." "That's great," Perry said sincerely. "I haven't visited in such a long time." "I'll go soon." Jessie visited, Daisy said with enthusiasm. "She went with Harrison." "You went with Harrison?" Perry asked with one eyebrow quirking up. "How'd you get him to go? And what happened to the War of the Exes?" Daisy punched him, casting him a warning look. I waved it off and just sighed. I'd practically dragged him there. "We're fine. We called a truce," I said. "I think he's going to visit Scott again soon." "Thank you, Jessie," Daisy gleamed. "Scott has been beating himself up over what he did to you and Harrison. As far as I know, he will never forgive himself for the rest of his life. When you visited, it was a huge weight off his shoulders." "It was for the best," I smiled, playing with Perry's rusted colour hair. "So I can't help my curiosity. How are the two of you?" "We haven't mated yet," Daisy said. "He's in a mental institute. It's kind of weird to get it on him." Okay, we get it, Perry said, covering his ears with his hands. Ghastly. I have more than enough with Nell and Jennifer. Anyways, Daisy said, glaring at Perry. We're just dating. That's all. I'm lucky I haven't found my mate, Perry sighed. What? You don't want to find true love? I asked. Perry always seemed like the person who constantly looked for true love. I guess I thought wrong. It's so complicated, Perry groaned, looking at me like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Femma wolves are such airs. Daisy smacked his head. You better watch it, Kavanaugh. Daisy defended the female population. See? Perry yelled, motioning a hand towards Daisy's angry face. You're really mean, I told him. Maybe that's because you're already 19 and your heart is becoming colder every day you don't have a mate. That's not true, Perry replied bitterly. He was lying. He was longing for a mate. He just didn't want to let us know because he was ashamed of his vulnerability. So, you're saying that if you found a mate, you would reject her? Daisy asked. No, Perry answered quickly. I would not let her go through that. Ah, so you have thought of finding your mate? You already know you'd welcome her with open arms, I teased, ruffling his hair. He rolled his chocolate eyes. I'm just a gentleman, that's all. I didn't know gentlemen called females ease, Daisy replied sarcastically. I'm 1 in a million, sweetheart. By the way, Jessie, what exactly is going on with you and Harrison? Nothing. We're friends, I shrugged. Just friends? How is that going for you? Daisy asked with curious eyes. Okay, I guess. It's going to be hard, but at least we were civil. Making him my enemy is too much drama. I hate to bring it up, but Harrison is obviously hiding some things from you, Perry said. Daisy gulped, averting her eyes. Harrison had many secrets, so I wasn't completely surprised. My eyebrows rose and I simply asked, why do you think that? Well, every time he thinks he ends the link with us, he starts muttering things about you, Perry stated. Right, Stace? Daisy nodded. My eyebrows knitted in confusion with my lips slightly parted. I didn't know how to respond to that. What was he muttering? What does he say? I asked, contemplating whether I should hear this information or leave it as it is. He grumbles to himself about how much he's an idiot. That one's right. He put you through a lot of crap, Perry said. He'd say things about how he missed you, and the other day, he was going on and on about how good it felt to have you in his arms. I said awkwardly, feeling the blood rush up to my cheeks. He wasn't aware that you guys were listening. Sometimes you forget that you haven't put up the link block if something is bothering you, Daisy said, looking at me cautiously. He talks about you a lot. He'd cuss every time he realized we were listening, but none of us had the courage to ask him what was going on. Why would he talk about me? I asked. I felt the riot of butterflies in my stomach. My heart was pounding against my ribcage. You're his mate, Daisy shrugged. I guess. He has a girlfriend, I pointed out. As much as I hate to say this, but I think if he wanted to be with me, he wouldn't be with Sarah right now. He loves her, Perry said bluntly. Daisy smacked him across the chest. Unfortunately, that news was clear a long time ago. However, it still dimmed my mood and made me more depressed. But I think there is more to the story than Harrison is letting on. What do you mean? I have no clue either, but I feel like he's hiding stuff, Perry said. He's definitely hiding a lot, Daisy agreed, nodding her head. He's been different lately. What do you mean by different? He's been acting weird. He's been more moody and snappy, Perry answered for Daisy. Why? Wouldn't we all want to know? I sat there, trying to make sense of the information. There were many questions swimming in my head, but I had a feeling that Daisy and Perry didn't have the answers to these. They were as clueless and curious as I was. I think he's still low, Daisy began, but was cut off by the front door banging open. It was so loud, causing the three of us to jump a foot in the air. We looked at each other in confusion. Our eyes widened when we heard screams of agony, shouting, and the rushing of feet across the tiled floors. Something happened, Daisy said worriedly, getting up to her feet. Betty just linked me. What? I asked, gripping her arm. She just stared at the entrance of the living room with frightened eyes. Her face paled and her lips were muttering words that I could not decipher. Perry's face was similar to Daisy's own. He got up to his feet as fast as he could. He was about to jump over the couch when the commotion entered the room. My eyes widened and the sight in front of me made me dizzy. A loud gasp escaped my lips unintentionally. My hands started to tremble and my body went cold. Nell rushed into the room shirtless, muttering something to Jennifer. Jennifer was in his arms, her small body covered in Nell's light blue t-shirt. She convulsed in his arms, screaming in agony. Nell shook, crying as he shouted orders at Perry. Betty tried to whisper comforting words to Brian, whose face was flushed. Tears were streaming out of his eyes. After he punched the wall hard, he tangled his hands in his blonde hair. Then my eyes flew to Jennifer's stomach, where dark red blood was soaking the cloth of Nell's t-shirt. She was stabbed, Nell cried, pushing Jennifer's hair out of her pale face. She's dying from the Werewolf's bane. She was stabbed, Nell cried, pushing Jennifer's hair out of her pale face. She's dying from the Wobble's bane. Please help her, Jessie, Brian sounded broken, looking at me with bloodshot eyes. Please heal her. Everyone started yelling. They started shuffling around, grabbing blankets, water, and other necessities. Everything was a big mess, but it was drowned out by the favour that Brian had asked me. Please help her, Jessie. Brian sounded broken, looking at me with bloodshot eyes. Please heal her. Jessie, please, Nell pleaded. My chest tightened from how broken he sounded. Please, I'm begging you. I hated seeing Jennifer like this. She was one of my best friends, and I couldn't stand seeing her in so much pain or stand the thought of her dying. I closed my eyes when she coughed, blood spluttering out. The commotion was much louder now. Everyone was helping as much as they could. I'll link Jake, I announced, frightened. He'll be here quick, trust me. We don't have time, Brian said, frustrated, pacing around the living room and getting angrier by the minute. You have to do it, Jessie. She's dying. My sister is dying. If I were even a tiny bit good at healing, I would have gave it a shot without thought. The only problem was the fact that I sucked at healing. If I risked it, her injury would have worsened and she would have died because of my mistake. However, if I didn't even try and she died, it would still be my fault. My head started spinning and my tongue felt like sandpaper. Sweat was spotting on my forehead, my head was pounding. I couldn't do this. Please, Jake said breathlessly when Jennifer's screams were coming out tiredly. What happened? Harrison yelled frantically, running into the room. When he saw the commotion, he threw his hand in his dark hair. Thanks. Jennifer ran ahead of us to show us something. That's when 2 hunters came out of the bushes and one stabbed Jennifer, Betty supplied with her voice quavering. She cried as she looked down at Jennifer. Nell and Brian finished the hunters while I tried to aid Jennifer. That's when we figured out that the wound was, Betty continued. She couldn't even finish her statement. Jessie, she's getting weaker, Brian screamed, motioning his hand towards his sister. Help. I might do it wrong, I replied, feeling guilty. If I try, it could worsen. I don't want her to die because of my mistake. Jessie, Harrison said, coming over to me and grabbing my head in between his hands. His blue eyes pierced into me. You could do this. Just concentrate. Please don't just stand there when you're the only one who could do something about it. She's dying, Jessie. Just concentrate. Grieve. You could do it. I looked at Jennifer. Her skin was so pale. Her eyes kept rolling back, but Nell refused to let her sleep. She moaned in agony. I had to do something. I had to try. Okay, I'll do it, I whispered, looking into Harrison's piercing blue eyes. You'll do fine, Harrison smiled, letting go of my face. Everyone went dead silent as I threw orders at them. Nell, I need you to lay her on the couch. Someone, please get water, a whole roll of napkins, and fresh clothes for Jennifer. I also need a first aid kit, I said, feeling much more confident. Nell placed Jennifer on the couch softly. She moaned softly in pain. Betty, Perry, and Daisy placed all the materials next to me in the next minute. Nell grabbed his mate's hand. Brian stood next to his twin sister, stroking her hair. Swallowing hard, I ripped the shirt where the wound was. There were a few gasps, including mine, when we saw the deep cut on Jennifer's flat stomach. Blood was gushing out of it. The wound was turning black from the wolfsbane. I tried to calm down as much as possible before I proceeded. I really didn't want to mess up. Instead of thinking about what was going on, I closed my eyes and thought of a positive outcome. I thought of Jennifer healthy and glowing, smiling and laughing. I drew in a shaky breath, placing my hands over the wound. I called for help from the ancient healers as I recited the familiar words and started the healing process. Lossatark, 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 I whispered. I imagined Jennifer crying at the altar, smiling widely at Nell. She looked beautiful in her wedding gown. Lossatark, Lossatark. I imagined a wall in between a blooming tree and me. I imagined myself knocking it down and delicately caressing a beautiful golden leaf. Lossatark! I felt an unfamiliar warmth hum through my body, a jolt of electricity ignited in my fingertips. Lossatark, Lossatark. I imagined Jennifer telling Nell that she was pregnant. She laughed as Nell picked her up and twirled her around in excitement. Lossatark! The tree was glowing. A pure white wolf with a black heart on her forehead appeared, looking at me with proud green eyes. You could do this, my wolf encouraged. We were made for this. Lossatark, Lossatark. The words were rolling off my tongue. I imagined that Jennifer, Betty, Daisy and I went shopping. Jennifer always picked out the ugliest things for us to try on. This time, she made me try on a feathery white dress that made me look like a chicken. She laughed with the other girls as I posed for them. Lossatark. Jennifer and Brian were playing a game. Jennifer won. She rubbed it in her brother's face. Lossatark. The golden leaves were circling my wolf. My wolf opened her mouth, sucking in the leaves. Once she was done, it was dark. My wolf stared back at me. Open your eyes, she said with a wolfy grin before she disappeared. I opened my eyes slowly. The first thing I heard was a soft moan. My eyes widened when Nell and Brian sobbed harder. Oh crap, did I fail? My eyes fell to Jennifer's stomach. A thin scar replaced the huge wound. My heart rate decreased. A huge smile graced my face. I leaned back before saying, I did it! Oh my gosh! I did it! I couldn't help it. I jumped to my feet with joy. All of a sudden, I was being pulled into many different hugs. They were praising me for my work. I blushed at all the attention I was receiving. Thank you, Nell said, crying tears of relief. I choked from his tight hug. Thank you so much. Brian pulled me into his arms and I returned his hug. I patted his back comfortingly as he cried into my shoulder. Thank you so much, Dee, he mumbled happily. I don't know what I would have done if my twin sister died. I cannot thank you enough. It's okay now, I murmured back, smiling as I spoke the truth. She'll be fine. You were awesome, Daisy yelled in my ear. I flinched back and laughed at her. It was beautiful. I swore I saw sparks coming out of your fingertips. I saw them too. You did a great job, Jessie, Betty said, ruffling my hair. I knew she was a witch, Perry joked. But she wasn't as evil as I thought. I smacked him across the head. He grinned, but praised me for my work. I told you that you could do it, Harrison smirked, standing beside me while we watched Nell wipe the blood off Jennifer's stomach. It freaked me out when you started muttering something in alien. I had to be honest, that was kind of unattractive. I rolled my eyes before smacking his shoulder. I'm kidding. You did a great job. He beamed. Thanks, I said, for having faith in me. Before he could say anything else, Brian clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. Guys, Jessie officially learned how to heal. My friends shouted and clapped. I blushed once again from the attention. I shuffled my feet. Jake strolled into the living room with a pretzel in his hand. He looked down at Jennifer and observed everyone's proud faces. What did I miss? He asked, confused. We laughed at him. Jennifer was doing much better. She was a little sore, and she had a fever, but her health was improving gradually due to her werewolf abilities. She felt like she owed me her whole life, but it wasn't in my best interest to look for something in return. I was the type to do favors for people because it was right, not because I was looking for a grand prize at the end of every good deed done. Jake was proud of me for discovering a way to connect with my healing abilities. His training had also become more challenging. However, I succeeded at most of the tasks he gave to me. I've also discovered a new ability. I tried it out on Jennifer and her fever had gone down gradually. Jake was practically jumping up and down in excitement at my rare power. Apparently, I had the ability to better an illness, but only to a certain extent. After the 1000th time of reciting the words repeatedly, my throat was as dry as sandpaper. I ended our training and headed for the kitchen. I went straight for the cupboard, reaching up on my tiptoes. In times like this, I cursed my short height. I smiled in victory when the glass cup was safely in my hands. "Hey!" a female greeted out of nowhere. I jumped a foot in the air, startled. I turned around, clutching the glass to my chest. "Oh, hey!" I said awkwardly when I saw Sarah sitting at the kitchen table on her cell phone. "Sorry I scared you," Sarah apologized, putting her phone down. "Oh no," I waved off. "I just didn't see you there. I was focused on getting myself a drink. My throat is as dry as the Sahara Desert. Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you," Sarah said politely. "I'm just waiting for Harrison to come down." I sit down on the seat across from her. Although it was extremely awkward, it was rude for me to leave Sarah here by herself. I took a sip of my water, feeling the cool liquid slide down my dry throat. Sarah's phone dinged, slicing through the awkward silence like a knife. "Sorry," she said, lowering the volume of her phone. "I'm texting my mother. It's been a long time since I've talked to her. My parents are divorced." I was quite shocked with how easy it came from her lips. She didn't seem the slightest bit embarrassed that her parents weren't together anymore. "It's all right," I said. "You should talk to your mum. I'm sorry to hear about your parents' divorce." "My parents were divorced too," I added when Sarah didn't say anything. It surprised me that I was being open with her. I guess it was because we had something in common and it was the only thing to talk about. I'd rather say the most embarrassing things than sit here and stare at her while there was an awkward silence between the both of us. "They were? So they got back together?" Sarah asked, folding her arms on top of the table. "Not quite," I said, shaking my head. I couldn't believe I was sharing so much of my life with this stranger. "My dad died about 15 months ago." Sarah's eyes widened, her lips frowning. She was pitying me. I usually hated being pitied, but I've gotten used to it. "I'm so sorry, Jessie," Sarah said sincerely. "I still don't know how to respond to that," I answered honestly, laughing. I don't know whether to say, "It's okay, thank you," or "I'm fine. Nothing relatively fits." "Tell me about it," Sarah laughed too. Every time I hear that, I don't know what to say. "So, you live with your dad?" I asked. "Yup," she says, popping the P. They divorced when I was 11. Ever since then, I stayed with my dad. I would talk to my mother occasionally. Usually, I visit her at New York City over the summer. I love small towns. Big cities overwhelm me. "I used to live in the city," I laughed. "I moved to this small town 2 years ago. 14 months ago, I moved to another small town with relatives. I kind of like cities. They keep you busy. It helps you forget all the problems you're having. I'm attached to Lancetown though." "I grew up here," Sarah explains. "All my family and friends are here. I'm afraid of letting that go." "You must have a great family," I smiled. "So, forgive me for asking, but why did your parents have a divorce? You don't have to answer if it makes you uncomfortable." I pursed my lips. After a couple of seconds, I simply say, "He found out some things he wasn't supposed to and found a whore half his age." "Oh," Sarah exclaims. "That's tough. What about your parents? Reconcilable differences?" Sarah smiled. "They just lost feelings for each other." "Oh," I simply said. It must be hard for a kid to see their parents divorce just because they actually didn't love each other. "Are you an only child?" "Yes." "What about you?" "I have an older brother. He's 21. He got married when he was only 20, but he's pretty sure that she's the one," I said proudly. It was always second nature for me to brag about Andrew. "That's cute," Sarah smiled genuinely. "What about your mum? What is she like?" "She's wonderful," I said honestly. "She's truly a super mum. She does everything for us. She owns her own business. She's a fashion designer. My mum does truly do everything for Andrew and I. She would literally take bullets for us." Talking about her made me want to cry. I was proud to be her daughter. "That's so cool," Sarah exclaimed. "My dad owns a business too, but it's just a small shop in town." "What store?" I asked, sipping my water. "The big shop," Sarah replied. I choked on my water, looking at Sarah with wide eyes. "Yeah, I know. He sells guns for a living. It's something I'm not so proud about." "Your dad is Aiden?" I asked, alarmed. "You know him?" Sarah asked suspiciously. "Yeah, I mean, I've heard about him around town." "I heard he's a sharpshooter," I lied. Did Harrison know Sarah's dad was a hunter? Did he know he was the one who created those vile weapons? If Sarah found out what we were, we'd be dead in a second. Would she knock on her boyfriend? Was she undercover? She seemed sincere and clueless. Why the hell was the world so screwed up? I'm so confused. Yeah, he is pretty good with the guns, Sarah agreed. Did Harrison meet him yet? I know Harrison's into guns, I lied again. I wanted to know if Harrison knew what he was getting himself into. I couldn't stand to see him hurt. Yeah, Harrison and my dad get along pretty well. Harrison's my dad's favourite. My dad teaches him how to shoot at the ranch sometimes, Sarah says happily, while I was anything but happy. My palms started getting clammy and my blood ran cold when everything started to click into place. The weapons I found in Harrison's room. The shootings he practiced with the one and only creator of the vile weapons, his girlfriend's dad. The werewolves that were teaming up with the hunters. The reason why he was putting his pack in danger, because he didn't want to give up something that was excessively valuable. The reason why he didn't want to give me an answer when I asked him what the hunters and rogues wanted. Because he didn't have an answer in the first place. It was all lies. I felt my fist clench under the table, my heart aching at the hurtful truth. My eye twitched as I replayed the painful discovery in my head. There was no way Harrison was betraying us, right? Maybe I was overthinking the situation. Maybe I was assuming things once again. There was only one way to find out the truth, and I knew how I was going to get my answer. I should get going, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I plastered a fake smile. I almost forgot I had a meeting. It was nice talking to you, Sarah. See you later. Jesse. As I was on the way to the gun shop, a familiar voice called up my name. Jake, what are you doing here? Aren't you doing your basic training? Yes, I was, but when I was taking my rest, I came across this, Jake said as he passed me a list. It's a list that has all hunters on it. What? I exclaimed in surprise and took the paper. But if you are here to inform me about this, they could suspect you as a werewolf since you just left the training. Don't worry, I told them that I suddenly felt sick. Just have a look at the list, Jake said. With that being said, I started to read the name on that sheet. Aidan Price, Ronald Higgins, Paul Kearney, Samuel Walker, Fred Abbott Harrison White. I threw the sheet of paper with disgust and shock, tasting the bile in my throat. Without knocking on Harrison's door, I barged in angrily. He looked annoyed, turning his head away from his television show. His eyes widened and he stood up when he saw it was I. Jesse, what's row? His words were cut short with a sharp slap that caused his head to whip to the left. The contact was so loud, slicing the calm atmosphere like a knife. Although it was a solid slap, it did nothing to release the pent-up anger burning inside of me. It was silent. Harrison's head was still whipped to the left, with his mouth slightly open. Shock was clear in his blue eyes. His cheek was turning red from the harsh contact. My fist shook beside me as tears furiously rolled down my cheeks. "Why don't you just kill us already?" I screamed when he didn't say anything. His eyes snapped to my face in confusion. "What the hell are you talking about?" he asked with his eyebrows drawn together. "Stop playing dumb with me, Harrison White," I yelled louder. "Jesse, calm down and lower your voice." "Why should I? Nobody is home." I shoved his chest, causing him to stumble back a few steps. "What the hell?" he said, his deep voice rising. Annoyance was clear on his perfectly sculpted face. "What is your freaking problem? Could you stop lying for once? Just stop it. Do you think I'm stupid? I found out your dirty little secret." "I still don't know what the hell you're talking about," Harrison yelled back. "Oh, please," I laughed sarcastically. "First, I find weapons that could kill werewolves in your bedroom, Harrison. They kill your own kind. I waved it off because you told me you were doing an investigation. I was stupid to believe a petty lie. Let me ask you a few questions on your amazing life, Harrison. How is it dating the hunter's daughter? I bet it's superb and magical, but nothing could beat being in the hunting team. That's every werewolf's dream, isn't it?" Recognition and fear swam in his blue eyes. He averted eye contact while he found something on the wall remotely distracting. I laughed sarcastically when his jaw clenched and he didn't respond. It makes sense now. Werewolves were teaming up with the hunters. Who knew an alpha would do that? You're clever, Harrison. So, here I am. Why don't you kill me now? Get it over with and just shoot me. I crossed my heart with my index finger. Right here. He snapped his eyes back to my face before a low growl erupted from his chest. Never say that again, Jesse. I wouldn't dare harm a hair on your body. You! I screamed, a new surge of anger pulsating through me. You're nothing but a liar. Why else would you be on the hunting team or own those weapons? You want to kill... Shut up, Harrison snarled. He tugged at his black hair. Just shut up, Jesse. You think you know everything, but you don't. You think you've got everything figured out, but you're missing a big piece to the story. My mouth snapped shut on their own accord. After you left, I used to run every night to get rid of that sacking annoying pain, Harrison sighed. His voice cracked. He sounded utterly broken. He sat down on his bed, looking straight at me. One night, I shifted back. I was about to head home when I heard the sound of a gun cocking and felt the cold metal of a rifle being pressed to the back of my neck. Once the smell of the wolfsbane surrounded me, I thought I was going to die. I turned around and I saw Sarah. She was scared, holding the rifle in her trembling hands. I tried to convince her that I meant no harm, but she didn't believe me, of course. She almost shot me, but I made the stupid mistake of telling her I'd do anything. I had this idiotic mentality that you would come back to me one day. Harrison laughed nervously, scratching the back of his neck. I was happy he wasn't looking at me because my mouth flew open in shock. I was shocked from the story he was currently telling and the statement he'd just announced. Anyways, he continued, Sarah lowered her gun and asked me to do her one favor. She had a boyfriend who was abusive. She told me she broke up with him. He kept coming to her house when her dad wasn't home to beat the sacks out of her. She eventually asked me to be her fake boyfriend to scare her ex away. I was a werewolf, so she thought I would be able to protect myself if this guy came after me. I agreed. I didn't want to die. She knew what I was. Her father was the maker of those weapons. She could narc on me and they would hunt me down. They would have killed the pack. After a few encounters with her ex, Sarah seemed to get a little clingy and attached. She'd show up everywhere. She'd call countless times. She came here one night when I didn't reply to any of her calls or texts. Betty answered the door and introduced herself as my sister. I tried telling Sarah that I wasn't interested, but she's a f***ing psycho. She threatened to kill Betty if I didn't ask her to be my girlfriend. I'd never live with myself knowing my sister was dead because of me. I didn't have much options, so I reluctantly agreed. I didn't want the pack knowing I was dating Sarah. She wasn't special. She didn't matter. I didn't want them to find out she was the hunter's daughter, but Betty made the unambiguous choice of introducing Sarah to the pack. After dinner that night, she wanted to have sex. Again, she threatened my whole pack and me. It was practically rape, and I was siffing scared. It was hard, but thoughts of you kept flooding my brain, and the whole time I was thinking of you. Just you. I was a pussy. I fricking cried. Could you believe that? I cried when I had sex with somebody that wasn't you. After that night, I wanted to kill her. It sounds horrible, I know, but she was crazy, and I couldn't stand it any longer. I wanted to turn her in for practically raping me, but Sarah was pretty good at lying, and I found out who her father was. Her father was the freaking maker of those weapons. She could open her big mouth to him and have my pack, and I killed in a matter of seconds. I was scared at first, but I decided to use Sarah as an advantage to investigate. I joined the hunting team, but I didn't do any hunting. I got rogues to team up with me and join the team as well. If they decided to attack us, we could attack them before they could reach us. I'll do what it takes to protect my pack and my family. I had a hard time digesting all of the information. A lot of questions were swarming in my head, but I had a hard time voicing them out. I didn't know which ones to ask first. I didn't even know what to say. The whole room was spinning. How could I not know that my mate was suffering? It was because I was too busy drowning in self-pity to even realize the pain of my own mate. I thought Sarah was a normal, average, real, and kind-hearted girl. Looks could be deceiving. She was nothing but a psycho freak. Harrison was right. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't. I assumed the worst from him, and I felt so guilty for not having faith in him. I trusted people I didn't even know, instead of trusting the man I loved. Harrison's shoulders were slumped as he stared at his dark carpet with tired eyes. He was stressed, and he was in trouble. He couldn't do anything about it. Nothing pained me more to see him so helpless. I was so stupid and naive. He did everything to protect us, and everyone looked at him negatively because they didn't know the whole story. I mentally slapped myself for believing he was the bad guy too. After an agonizing long silence, I sighed. He was risking everything for us. I wanted to help him more than anything. "Harrison, what do they want?" I whispered. He still didn't look at me. "Forget it, Jesse," he said without room to dwell on it. "Just know that I'm truly sorry for everything." I gulped. Only now, I chose to believe it. I felt beyond guilty that he had to explain everything just so I could deem that his apology meant something. Everything clicked into place now. Why he still had our picture by his bed. Why he still looked at me with adoration. Why he spent so much time concerned over my feelings about my mother. Why he kept apologizing. I assumed he still loved me. I hope so. "I'm sorry, Harry," I whispered, playing with the tips of my brown hair. "I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for being an a-hole towards you. I'm sorry for Sarah. I'm sorry for everything and anything." "We're both at fault," he said. He looked up, finally meeting my eyes. "Do you still love me?" I blurted, feeling the butterflies flutter furiously in my stomach. I felt like a 15-year-old whose crush just smiled at her. My heart pounded hard against my ribcage when his blue eyes melted. The answer was clear from the way he stared at me. More than anything in the whole damn world. Harrison smiled genuinely. "I still loathe you, Jessica Turner, and I've missed you so damn much." I felt like I was floating when I walked to where he was sitting. I smiled brightly as I stood in between his legs, running my hands through his black hair and resting them on his neck. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me closer to his body. I inhaled his scent deeply, pressing my forehead against his while I got lost in his blue eyes. "I loathe you too, Dot," I whispered, smirking. "So much that it hurts." I crashed my lips onto his familiar warm ones. The kiss was amazing. No adjective could describe this kiss. It sounded cliché, but it was the absolute truth. It left my toes curling, my taste buds craving, my stomach flipping, my heart racing, my head spinning, and my body tingling. The fire licking in my stomach and the heat that invaded my body were gladly welcomed. It made me realize how much I missed him and his kisses. Our lips moved in synchronization, molding perfectly together. I could feel his smile against my lips. He kissed me softly and passionately, showing me how much he missed me and how much he loved me. The intensity and the passion in our kiss made my heart burst with happiness. I suppressed a low moan when I felt him suck on my bottom lip, demanding entrance. I pressed my lips together tightly. He growled as I giggled. It turned into a full-out laughter when he tickled my sides. He laughed as he kissed my jaw and left kisses down my neck. When he reached my mark, I felt him smile before he kissed it softly. He stood up from the bed, grabbing my head. Bringing his lips back to mine, he slipped his tongue into my mouth. I moaned when it came in contact with my own. My hands tugged at his soft black hair. I was surrounded in his heavenly scent. His every touch was bringing fire to my body. If I could kiss Harrison forever, I would. He rested his forehead against mine when we both ran out of breath. Leaving a trail of heat and goosebumps behind, he ran his hands down my arms and interlocked our fingers. He brought my right hand up to his lips and kissed my palm. "Gosh, I missed making out with you," Harrison groaned. "Is that all you missed?" I scolded with a fake glare. "Well, I missed the sex too," Harrison teased. He chuckled as I slapped his chest. "I'm kidding, Jez. I missed everything about you." "You're too cheesy, lover boy," I smiled, patting his cheek lightly. "Only for you." He winked and groaned again. "I want to show you off, but that psycho is in the way." "What are we going to do about her?" I sighed, feeling my happiness go down the drain from our reality. "Hey," Harrison reassured, tightening his hold around my waist when he felt me draw back from him. He tilted my chin up with one finger so I could look into his determined blue eyes. I'll deal with her. I want you. Only you. Mine, I whimpered, voicing the thoughts of my wolf. Harrison chuckled. Don't worry, babe. I'm all yours. I like the sound of that. I closed my eyes as he chuckled and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. Once again, both packs were cramped in the conference room. There were hushed conversations and friendly greetings as more people filed in. Children were playing games with each other. Teens chatted animatedly. Women gossiped, and men talked about men's stuff. Jennifer stood close to Nell. Her eyes were trained to the ground as curious individuals glanced at her. No doubt, have they heard the news? Betty and Daisy were offering cookies to the crowd. James, Clark, and Sam stood stiffly in the background, obviously uncomfortable for being on Avalon Pack territory. Perry was deep in conversation with his younger siblings. Jake stood next to me playing Candy Crush on his iPhone. Brian and Harrison were looking through papers in the corner. Harrison caught me staring at him, and a small smile formed on his handsome face. I resisted the urge to pinch him when he linked with me. Like what you see? He asked arrogantly. Very much, I teased, deciding to joke around with him. I just want to rip your clothes to pieces and lick my tongue across those finely defined abs. I choked back a laugh when he turned a slight shade of red, shifting his weight to the other foot. He scratched the back of his neck. Too bad that'll only happen in your dreams, Dot. Harrison and I had been secretly seeing each other behind everyone's back for a week. Sometimes our friends would get suspicious, but we'd wave it off. They didn't need to know we made out in his room late at night, or we'd cuddle and watch a movie. Every time I saw Sarah, I resisted the urge to shred her face to pieces. Her sweet smile was sickening. When she put her arms or her lips on Harrison, I growled inwardly. Harrison reminded me it was all an act and it was going to end soon. He kept contact with Sarah to a minimum, and he'd constantly apologize if she so much as held his hand. You know what they say. Dreams do come true, he laughed. I rolled my eyes. Oh, if all of your dreams are that illusory, your dreams must never come true. That is sad. Yes, it did. I got you. I felt the blood rush up to my cheeks. A small smile formed on my face. Very smooth, lover boy. Stop talking to me, he joked. I'm trying to focus on alpha duties. A very mischievous thought raced through my mind, and we all know how much I love to mess with Harrison. I knew exactly what swayed him and what affected him. I smirked. With the best seductive voice I could muster internally, I linked him. Yes, Alpha Harrison. In my peripheral vision, I saw him stiffen. He was looking at me. I could feel his gaze burning holes in my side. Through the link, I heard him growl lowly. You're evil. You're such a tease, Jess. Harrison groaned. What? Everyone calls you that. What makes me any different? I asked innocently. Coming from you, it sounds crazy sexy. Whatever. Just remember that although you're an alpha, I'm still your master. Well, I do like my women on top, Harrison joked. You are so nasty. You have a perv. You smell like him again, you know, Jake said, interrupting me from my conversation with Harrison. My heart raced in my chest as he said this. However, my face was set and my lie was already rolling off my tongue smoothly. Like who? Don't play stupid with me, Jesse. He rolled his eyes and sighed. I knew you two wouldn't be able to resist each other any longer. I don't know what you're talking about, I replied, observing my chipped nail polish indifferently. Ooh, fine, don't tell me. I really don't understand why all of a sudden you don't trust me anymore. Jake feigned hurt. I could tell. He was playing the guilt card. But I knew that a tiny bit of him really did feel that way. I gulped, playing with the tips of my brown hair. When you're ready to tell me, then I'll be there. You don't have to lie to me. I'd hate him, sure, but I would support your decisi. Fine, I huffed, feeling the blush creep up my cheeks. I crossed my arms over my chest, ignoring his penetrating gaze. We'd been seeing each other secretly. He's cheating on Sarah? Jake asked. His eyebrows drew together in confusion. You're helping him cheat on Sarah? It's a long story, I sighed, looking around me frantically. I'll explain to you after the meeting. I don't want anybody else to hear. Promise. Promise. After a few more minutes, the meeting finally started. Good evening, Brian greeted the crowd, causing the hushed whispers to cease. Even the children stopped playing, listening to the alpha of the Raven Pack. The teenage girls gave him their full attention, obviously attracted to my best friend. Thank you all for attending our meeting today. We apologize for such short notice, but we have a very important announcement. From the way Brian said the last part, we all knew that whatever news was going to be shared wasn't good. Everyone in the crowd watched with fearsome eyes. Their attentions were focused on the two alphas at the front of the room. I will give the floor to Alpha Harrison of the Avalon Pack, Brian announced. He's truly been on top of his game and found out a lot of information that benefited our packs in many ways. The crowd clapped. My heart swelled with pride, knowing what my mate did and risked for both packs. He stood at the front with his shoulders squared, smiling gratefully at those who praised his work. "Thank you, Alpha Brian," Harrison said in a deep voice. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes at the dramatic sighs coming from majority of the young females. The Raven Pack has a great alpha. He has done a lot as well. He helped out as much as he could. The effort and dedication he has towards his pack is admirable. The crowd roared with applause again. I never remembered both packs were this friendly. Brian and Harrison had obviously left high school behind them and started on a new page. It shocked me to see that the two men were friends. They no longer butted heads and disagreed on petty things. They were actually praising each other. "There are no other ways to break the news softly," Harrison said with a hint of sadness in his voice. The crowd went dead silent again. Even the representatives wanted to hear what the alphas had to say. I've been anxiously waiting for some news on the problem at hand. Therefore, I'm just going to announce it as simply as possible. Gulp. Alpha Brian and I order that all werewolves will lock up and keep careful for the next 3 days. Keep your families safe. That is all we ask of each one of you. The attack is unfortunately imminent. The representatives will be fighting in 3 days.